one of our most staunch supporters and people that we love dearly in Worldchefs, our friends from Dilma Tea, Dilhan Fernando, the Chief Executive Officer of Dilma Tea, and Peter Kruvita, the Managing Director of Albanusa, and also the Dilma Ambassador, who's going to whip up a storm as Dilhan gives us a little chat about tea. Welcome. And then we go for a break.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for the honor of an invitation. I'm starting with a message from the soul of Dilma, and the soul is this man. And you cannot imagine how much you truly delighted and honored him in 2018 when you presented him that Lifetime Achievement Award. And I wanted to particularly mention that he hasn't been in the best of health. He did celebrate his 92nd birthday, but he's unable to join us because of certain difficulties. But he's here in spirit, and he asked me to make sure that I opened with this. So thank you again, chefs, because you have become a part of our Dilmah family. We're a family business formed on family values, and the relationships that we have formed with Worldchefs truly strengthens, encourages, and inspires us. Thank you. So, thank you.
As your father inspires us. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. You know, I'm going to ask you, as Frederick did, for a slight change of perspective. Tea has always, at least in the recent past, been looked at something of a boring commodity. And yet, when I look at what our business today represents in terms of what customers are telling us around the world, they're asking for taste, of course. They're asking for taste adventure. They're asking for goodness, wellness. You know, it's more than a buzzword. We heard it before also. But they're also asking for purpose, for the ethics behind everything, because no company has a right to exist or to prosper unless it shares its success with those less fortunate. These are the simple principles that my father ingrained into our business. Let me talk a little bit about taste, and then we'll talk also a little bit about immunity. You know, the simple principle of tea making, the traditional way that we honor, it's of hand-picking the leaf, it's of withering it to bring the moisture down, it's of rolling the leaf so that you disrupt the cell walls and you begin the enzymatic oxidation. It's then of simply fermenting in the case of black tea or not in the case of green tea, and finally baking the tea to arrest all the processes and prepare the tea for consumption. It is a pure form which has not changed in the last 5,000 years. Of course, 5,000 years when Emperor Shen Nung and his physicians harvested tea, it was done manually. But that purity of the process is what makes its taste and its variety in taste so very special. Because it is nature, through sunshine, through wind, through soils, through moisture, through rainfall, humidity, and all of these beautiful things that we call climate. It is that which makes a difference in tea, in its flavor, in its aroma, in its textures. And it is that which makes tea so very relevant, not simply as an accompaniment to fine food, but also in fine food. Peter is going to talk to us a little bit about that. So when you consider the variety of taste, you have teas that start at it as light, bright notes of lychee, stone fruit, beautiful sweetness. You have teas, all pure, that come through the strength, the intensity, the woodiness that you get in the Dimbula Valley. You have teas that go to the malty characters in Navalapitiya, and you have teas that are earthy, strong, and robust, that go beautifully with steak and grilled meats and so on. So you have this incredible variety, all crafted. I call myself a tea maker, as do many of our staff, but we are not tea makers. It is nature that defines all of this. But then you come to the goodness. We're talking immunity today. So what is immunity? It is probably one of the most critical factors to our survival, to our existence, because it is the body's inbuilt defenses against toxins, bacteria, against viruses. Of course, there's many organs involved. But tea, through its ability to reduce inflammation, through its ability to strengthen these organs, has an incredible potency where strengthening the body's defenses against immunity is concerned. And you know, there's beautiful research. I'm not going to talk to you about all of this, but just to mention a few points. One is, there was a study of how tea impacts stress in the human body. We all know about stress. I mean, you guys know about it more than I do. But stress is one of the biggest causes of premature mortality. Of course, you don't die of stress, but stress causes a whole load of other issues that create problems. Tea, or consumption of 4 or 5 cups of tea a day, well brewed of course, reduce the impact of stress on the human body by 51%. And this was a live study done in the Netherlands. If you don't take my word for it, check it out on PubMed. The science is there with the papers. But also tea protects from dementia, protecting from Alzheimer's, protecting from diabetes, something that in Sri Lanka is almost at an epidemic level because it helps the body synthesize sugars. It also helps the body emulsify fat, so it aids digestion, combats cholesterol. So all of these together make tea incredibly potent in its ability to strengthen the body's immune system and contribute to general wellness. And this is all, it's not marketing talk, but do have a look at PubMed sometime. Peter will show us a little bit more about that. It does mean a few things. I had a look last week at a focus group study of a few people in Australia, and they were brewing tea. So we were watching from Colombo on Zoom. They take their tea bag, add their sugar, and it said, no, you can't do that. You've got to make sure you extract the goodness in tea, and that means making sure that you brew properly. It means giving the tea 3, sometimes if you're adding milk and so on, or if you're adding other ingredients, give it 5 minutes. If you're going to make a cocktail with it, if you're going to cook with it, make it into an essence, give it up to 10 minutes, extract the flavonoids, extract the goodness in the tea, the antioxidants, the catechins in green tea, because it is that which will deliver the goodness for your customer, for your guest, or for yourself. And then there's purpose. I made mention of my father's philosophy at the beginning. And I think why purpose is relevant today is that today, more than ever, we've realized that to be worthy, a business must serve humanity. And that's my father's philosophy. It happens in a variety of ways, and I think most of you know, so I will not dwell too much on it. But the most important thing about the goodness in tea is the fact that it is based on natural factors. It is based on what nature puts into the leaf, and it is a process that has no additives. There is really no technology. I mean, I invite you one day to come and visit our tea factories. I think several of you have, and what you might see there would probably surprise you because it is a rhythm. It is a process that is designed to nurture what nature has done. So when you roll the leaves in your hand, it is to be respectful of the leaf, to ensure that it is only the enzymes that interact with each other. It is a process designed at a certain point to respect the terroir in a very sincere way. And the beauty of tea is that from one estate to another, from one week to another, as the weather changes, so completely does the texture, the flavors, the aromas of fine tea. Of course, it is a tragedy sometimes when it's not brewed properly, when being enjoyed or prepared, but that's changing, and that's mainly because of the wellness in tea. So my request to you is look at tea with a new perspective. Now, where it helps boost immunity, it's not only stress and so on. Tea also has a very unique combination of L-theanine and caffeine. So tea has, I think, about a third of the caffeine in equivalent in coffee. So, but it does have caffeine, and that combination, L-theanine, what it does is it enhances alertness whilst enhancing the body's ability to remain calm. So it helps with thinking, it helps with more mental clarity, L-theanine and caffeine, because tea is unique in offering this component, this amino acid called L-theanine. Looking at why tea, looking beyond immunity, these are the 4 points that we got from our research. We've done research in everywhere from Canada to the US, the Middle East. We've done recently in Australia and New Zealand. Every Gen Z and millennial, of course I'm taking an average, they valued purity of nature, purity of origin, the story, but a story that was based on nature, because nature, for the first time, we are the first generation that is at the risk of losing what we have taken for granted for so long in nature. And they value nature in a very special way. They value wellness because of what we're going through. Tea has the ability to protect the body from pollution, from restoring lungs damaged by smoke, as an example, simply because the antioxidants, they neutralize the effect of the free radicals caused through smoke, pollution, and so on. So there's an incredible potency in this herb. It's wellness. It's also luxury. And in the video, we talked about a new luxury. Well, you're probably wondering how we can do that. Imagine the luxury. Each tea bag or each cup of tea that you enjoy, brewed right, it contains 30 hand-picked leaves and buds. Why do we handpick? We handpick because we don't want to get the stalk. It's only the human eye that can discern the young, tender leaf. And it is in the young, tender leaf that you have the most antioxidants. Handpicking is critical to maintaining the quality of a cuppa. And luxury, it is truly a luxury because someone 30 times on average has picked these leaves especially to make your cup of tea. And sustainability. Sustainability, it's a huge part of our commitment. We have the world's first private sector climate change research and adaptation center. We have a multitude of biochar, of different initiatives. I think too many, and probably this is not the place to mention it. But one I would like to talk about, and for this I owe a big debt of gratitude to several of you, and particularly to my young friend Bernd here. We worked over years with chefs. Bernd, Peter, chefs from around the world who were part of our chef and the tea maker, but who are also part of our Real High Tea Challenge, where we looked to a revolution in afternoon tea, to look at the synergy between tea and food and try to see how tea dignifies food, how tea emulsifies fats and cleanses the palate and so on, the relationship between tea and food. And in that process, I saw something that I admire with great intensity even today. It is the commitment to ingredients. It is the commitment to the right method and a commitment that to perfection day in, day out, which really blew me away. And on that principle, we set up 2 culinary schools because we also saw in that the opportunity to take young women and men and to be able to transform their lives through hospitality. So we have these schools. We have several governors here, I think Chef Rohan Fernando Pulle, Bernd. We have, no, sorry, the others are not here. But so several of you are governors, and with appreciation for the support. John Clancy also, I'm not sure if you're here, John, but with appreciation for the support, we've had over 200 young women and men so far from very differently. We've had several young women who've cerebral palsy, some with Down syndrome, who've come through, who are now in the industry, who are working, who are successful, who are now have come up to sous chef level. We've got several who've graduated in their industry placement. But the most important thing is that we see in this partnership between Worldchefs and Dilmah, my family's foundation, an incredible opportunity to do good by also doing things better. I want to thank you for all that, but also I want to introduce my colleague. Peter has been a strength, and he is the first person. When he was in Sydney, I sent a box of 30 teas and said, Peter, tell us how we can match the functional relationship between tea and food with the sensory side. So with that, I would like to ask Peter to share a few words.
Thanks, Dilhan. Yeah, that was about 1,800 recipes ago. And since then, we've just been creating and being in this incredible situation where the more teas that come, the more ideas that come. And this whole immunity idea, and it's not really an idea, it's a movement. I think Frederick also mentioned it. Even with those heavy-duty French patisserie, people want to change. And I think in Australia, that's massive. Every menu that we have has to have dietaries. We have a matrix in the restaurant with every dietary you can possibly imagine. And we try and ensure that anyone that comes into the business can order anything they like that's on the menu, and there'll be something there for every dietary. So in the 2 demonstrations that I'm going to do, there's no sugar, I'm using vegan chocolate. And what I wanted to show you is that, you know, all the things that Dilhan spoke about, all the antioxidants and all the health-giving properties can be in two very simple dishes that taste delicious. The first one, the tangerine and rose and grapefruit, I cold infused the tea, and you have this delicious pink stock, you can call it, because we're chefs, but it's a tea. And I'm going to make that into a beautiful gazpacho. So very simply, a whole lot of ingredients that actually are so good for you. While I do this, I think too that I'd like to thank you all for having me here, but also there's a whole group of young chefs behind the scenes who do a lot of work. And I think sometimes the people who are behind the scenes don't always get recognized. So I think we always need to keep that in mind, because behind every chef, there's also a whole team, and I think that's really important. Some beautiful watermelon that we had to run around town to find. This lovely tangerine tea, some capsicum, a little bit of red wine vinegar. Actually, I tried to find red wine vinegar, not available. So I used apple vinegar, some jalapeno chilies, a little bit of shallot, which has been chopped, some tomato, which obviously is part of a gazpacho, cucumber, and then some black pepper, a clove or two of garlic. I've got some smoked salt, which is delicious, and that's that whole flavor profile, and some olive oil to bind it. And that will be blended. But what I'm going to do is just let it sit there for a little bit longer so that we can make all the noise at once. And I'll just add a little bit more of this wonderful infusion. I was looking at what was in here, and it's not just the tangerine, rose, and grapefruit, but it's a whole lot of other things. Rosemary, sage, parsley, and all of those just add to the flavor. To drink this tea as it is, or to cook with it. And for me, it's all about cooking with it. The other one's a protein ball, full of flavor, lots of health, and I'm using chocolate, turmeric, and ginger tea. It's slightly crushed. It's absolutely delicious. It's great to drink, but even chocolate is good for you. And rather than, you know, I want to look after the vegans as well, and I think about this, go to the gym, smash one of these down, and you'll probably be able to push out a few more kilos. So some cashew-based vegan chocolate, some actual cashews. This is just vanilla syrup, which I'll just use a little bit of. Some goji berries, which are just full of energy and antioxidants. And they love to stick to the glass. Some cocoa powder. Some dates to bind the whole thing together. And a combination, I had macadamias, but any nut is good, and all nuts in small quantities are really good for you as well. The chocolate itself on top. The tea, and then just going to use a little bit of coconut oil, and that coconut oil will bind the whole thing. And so I'm going to start both noises at once. Maybe. Always good to have the... I checked it, but I didn't make sure the blade was down. Right, okay. I'll start this one. So I think over all the years of having to...
Well, that's noisy.
That is. Got that, your headphones on there, John? Okay. So, here we go. This is going to be even noisier, I think. So to develop a range of dishes, I did a whole range. I think we did about 12 or 15 immunity-based dishes, yes. All vegan and vegetarian. And the flavor is just as strong, is just as good. I heard before the chef talking about umami and strong flavors. It's about being able to create food using tea, but still having wonderful flavors. And to me, that's really important. So these guys, now they can be rolled in anything you like, coconut if you want, but I just prefer them like this, very colourful, always good. This is the tallest hob in the world, or maybe I'm the shortest chef in the world. I'm not sure which one, but
We need this. We need the kneeling stool, Ragnar.
well, I did ask for that, but I think you're just having a bit of fun watching me behind here. Anyway, I'm Sri Lankan.
I didn't want to put you on a box, mate. I couldn't bring myself to
I
it.
could have fallen off. That would have been funny. All right, so look, just a simple little combination of all of those flavors. You can put a little bit of salt on the top to have some wonderful taste, but it's good for you. It tastes good. Looks pretty good as well in my eyes. And then the gazpacho can just be served with a little bit of olive oil in a glass. Some olive oil on top. And a little bit of salt. And I've got the smoked salt because that's just going to add some extra flavor. So very simply, 2 dishes that are not only going to taste good, but they're going to be good for you, using Dilmar's incredible range of teas. And as I said, I think what we need to do is start getting everyone to think about using tea in food. Because Dilhan was talking about drinking it. But in here, you've actually got the tea inside, and it's going to continue to work for you. How long would it work for you for when it's produced like this? The flavor comes out. We've got probably a teaspoon or 2, maybe 2 tablespoons in there, and a teaspoon, or at least 500 mils into a whole gazpacho. And those kind of antioxidants and all the health-giving aspects of it, not only delicious, but they look good too.
Thank you, Peter. A note on cold infusion. Thank you, Peter. A quick note on cold infusion. I know cold brewing has become very fashionable. It is, it's great. But just be careful while you're storing it. Be careful, don't give it more than 4 to 5 hours just to avoid any bacteria setting in. So with that, my request is please look at tea with a fresh perspective. Give tea a chance. It's been commoditized, but tea made with passion. It's not ordinary tea. In conclusion, thank you very much for the inspiration that the chefs have been, many of you, to us, to our business, because you've been a huge part of it. And thank you for what you're helping us to do with the less privileged. Sri Lanka needs help, and this is a big part of it. Thank you very much.
And can